Okay, so let's talk about something that drives so many people crazy. You're a fluent English speaker, you write well, you feel confident, and then your IELTS writing score comes back and it's just bafflingly low. You're definitely not alone. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on this whole writing test and figure out what is really going on.
And look, this right here, this is a real quote from a test taker. And man, it just captures the heart of the puzzle, doesn't it? Here you have someone who's highly proficient, studying at a top university, and their writing score just doesn't line up with their other amazing scores. It's a story you hear over and over again.
So, yeah, this is what we're calling the fluent writer's puzzle. You know you're a good writer, but the test results are telling you a completely different story. It is so frustrating, it's enough to make you question the whole system. But what if the problem isn't actually your writing skill?
Okay, so here's the absolute key. The problem isn't your writing. It really isn't. The issue is not understanding the very specific rules of the test itself. As a standardized test, it's not grading your creativity. It's grading your ability to follow a formula. It's a whole different game. So we've got to completely reframe how we think about this. This is not a test of your raw writing talent. It's a test of rules. And once you understand the game of the IELTS exam, you can start building a strategy to actually win it.
Just think about the difference for a second. In the real world, your day-to-day life, great writing is often creative, flexible, and nuanced. But for the IELTS, nope. It's about being formulaic, structured, and totally 100% focused on that grading rubric. Honestly, those beautiful, complex sentences you're so proud of, they might actually be hurting your score if they don't tick the right boxes for the examiner.
Yes, exactly. This person, whoever wrote this, absolutely hit the nail on the head. The key to unlocking that high score isn't about showing off every big word you know. It's about systematically proving that you understand and can follow what the rubric asks for. It's like you're performing from a script they've already written.
Okay, so this naturally leads us to one of the biggest, scariest parts of the test for a lot of people, the mysterious examiner. There's so much fear and, frankly, misinformation out there about who is grading your paper and whether they're biased or even paid to give you a low score. Let's tackle that myth head on.
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right? When you hit submit on that essay, who is on the other side? Is it some fair, qualified professional, or is it someone, less experienced, maybe even with a reason to mark you down? You've probably heard this one. It's a super common myth. Even teachers spread it around sometimes. The idea that your future is in the hands of some inexperienced university students who are just marking papers as a side hustle? It's a pretty unsettling thought, but is there any truth to it?
Well, the reality is completely different, and honestly, it's way more reassuring. Let's dig into the actual qualifications and the really intense quality control that IELTS examiners have to go through.
So get this. The bar to even become an examiner is incredibly high. These aren't just some random grads. They are required to have a bachelor's degree, a professional teaching qualification, and at least 3 years of real-world, relevant teaching experience. And in reality, most of them have way more than the minimum.
And let's just kill another myth right now. There is zero, and I mean zero, financial incentive for them to give you a low score. They don't get paid more if you have to retake the test. Their entire job, their whole focus is on one thing: being accurate. And they are monitored so intensely to make sure that happens.
And you might be wondering, okay, how do they keep them in line? Well, this system is intense. Examiners get weekly reports on their performance. Their work is randomly checked, without them even knowing it's happening. And if their grading starts to drift from the standard, the consequences are serious. We're talking retraining or even losing their job. It's a really rigorous system.
All right, so we've busted the myths, we get the rules of the game. Now for the important part. How do we actually use this knowledge to our advantage? It's time to shift our whole mindset from being a creative writer to being a strategic test taker.
It's funny, because fluent speakers almost always fall into the exact same traps. The biggest one is just pure overconfidence, thinking you can wing it on the day. That leads to not studying the rubric, not practicing under that intense time pressure, and, this one's huge, not getting expert feedback to see where you're actually going wrong.
So what's the fix? Here's your game plan, plain and simple. First, get that official IELTS writing rubric and study it like it's your textbook. Second, you have to practice writing complete essays under a strict time limit. Next, learn the simple formulaic structures that you know will score well. And finally, if you possibly can, get a qualified teacher or an expert to mark your practice essays and give you honest feedback.
Look, if you remember just one thing from all of this, please let it be this.
The IELTS writing test is not a judgment on your intelligence. It's not a judgment on your creativity or your talent as a writer. It is a measurement of a very, very specific skill, your ability to deliver a structured, rubric-focused essay under pressure. That's it.
And that brings us to the final, big question you need to ask yourself. It's not enough to be a fluent writer in the real world. To crush this test, you have to look in the mirror and ask, have I trained myself to be IELTS fluent? Because mastering that distinction, that is the real key to unlocking the score you deserve.